Okay, in this video I'm going to explain relative URLs. So as we place things into our HTML page, quite often we have to create a link to it. For example, images or other types of links. In some cases we might have a link which you have image source equals, and then you're going to need to find a place to where does that image actually live. Now in what's called absolute URLs, let me put this in absolute URL example, we would put in the full website in there, http www.website, whatever your website is, .com. Maybe I don't need this as big, make this a little smaller. And then we would have slash images slash bulldog.jpg. Okay? Normally, this is the ideal way to put in your images into your HTML pages. With relative URLs, we have to do things slightly different. And the reason why we're using relative URLs is because in order to see it working, this would actually have to already be uploaded to a web server that has website.com set up for it. But since we're developing pages that are just on our desktop, we're not uploading them to a web server yet, we have to use what's called a relative URL. And then that means it doesn't matter where the files are as long as they're located in a place similar or close to each other. So if I had the same thing and let's say this was on the About page, which isn't the home page, all right? And I'll explain that in just a little bit. Here's what we have to have first. If we're on the About page, there's a good chance that the About page is in a folder called About. Let me show you the example. Here we are, we have a website. And the website has these folders: About, Archives, Contact, Images, Privacy Policy, and Terms of Use. If I was editing the index.html page in the About folder, I need to be able to tell, hey, the image you're looking for is not in the About folder. You need to look up one level and then find a folder called Images, and it's going to be in there. Now in this case, let me change the example to this philo.hello.jpg. So let's come back here and let's change bulldog because I just made that up. philo.hello.jpg. All right, that's how it would be if we don't know what the website actually is. I just have that in as a filler, but it's in the images folder. That's what the slash images is for, and then within the images folder it will look for philo-hello.jpg. That's with the absolute URL example. We're going to create a relative URL. So it's relative to where we are. And if we're editing the About page, again, it's in this index file right here. The philo-hello image is way over here in the images folder. It's not in the About folder. If it was, then we wouldn't have to create .. So let me show you how that is. So with a relative URL, we're going to put .. With relative URLs, that essentially says, let me just put this .. means look one folder up, if that makes sense. Okay? That means it's not in the folder that you're currently in and editing. It means you need to look up. If you had a folder inside a folder, let me just give an example. Let's say I'm in my About folder and I had another folder, right? And I was editing an index file in that folder. So I was editing this file. So now we have another folder inside About folder. Then this would look like this. We'd have to go 2 folders up, .. So if we have 2 .. slashes, that means look 2 folders up. Means look 2 folders up. All right? To finish this, to make it match what we have up here in the About page, since it's not in the About page, we're going to go look 1 folder up, and there you should find a folder named Images. And then within the Images folder, that's why we add another /. Now you should find philo hello.jpg. Right? So this is called a relative URL. Let me finish that tag. And let me show you an example. So here is I'm going to get rid of this folder because that doesn't really exist for this project. Let me open this up with Dreamweaver. I'll show you in code view what this page looks like. So here we have entered image source equals philo hello.jpg. We added some other tags as well. We added width, height, and an alt tag, which you should always do. And it does end with a / close bracket. So we probably should include the / close bracket. Sorry about that. All right, so that would be your relative URL. And you can add other tags in here. So we can add philo cartoon. All right, so and you'll learn about other types of tags that can be included in your image source. Now the same thing happens when we're doing a link. So if I wanted to create a link from the About page to another content page, let's use the same example. Let's say I was editing the About page. Here we are is the index, and I want to create a link to the contact image page. And I don't actually have an index file in there. I guess I can put a copy of one in there really quick. So let's say there was this page here, and I want to create a link from this HTML page to this one using relative URL. So to start a link, we use A, and then we have href equals, and then we close it. Actually, we have to have anchor text. So we have to put contact us as and then we close the link tag. So this would actually show up on the page as a hyperlink. And if this was the absolute URL, we would put in HTTP, the website address, and then contact us /. And if you wanted to, you could add index.html. But you don't have to, because all browsers know to look for an index page inside the folder. So to make this relative, since we don't have these files actually on a web server, we're going to take out this part, and we're going to add the ... Because the contact page is not, the page we're looking for is not in the same folder as the About page. So we have to tell it to look 1 folder up, then within there, find the Contact Us folder, and then inside there will be an index.html page. So this is your relative URL. And because browsers know to look for an index page .html, we can actually leave index.html off. And this is all we would need for our relative URL. And that would take, now in this case I actually called the page contact. So if this folder was actually called contact us, it would look like that. So let me change that back since I'm using this for another project and I don't want to break things. So to make this work, that's the name of the folder. And all of that has to be precise, and it has to be within double quotes in order to work. That's a relative URL. So whether you're linking a file for an image, or whether you're linking to another page on your website, this is how you do what's called a relative URL. And we're doing that so that we can see our website on our computer without having to upload it to a web server. If we could upload to a web server, this is the format we'd want to use, what's called an absolute URL. Since we're just going to build websites and keep them on our own computers, we're going to go with a relative URL structure for the rest of this class. Hope that explains relative URLs. This little ... is always going to be an interesting prospect. Now what gets interesting is when you're actually editing the home page. So on the home page, we have an index file that is not in a folder except for the root folder. It sits out here by itself, and all these other pages are inside folders. If I was editing this page, this changes just a little bit. It would change to href equals, now in this case, since we're on the root folder already, there's no need to tell it to look up. So now we don't even need the ... We would just put in contact ... And you can include the index.html or leave it off. We would still need anchor text. And the reason why this works is because there is a folder in the same folder. This folder is essentially in the root folder, the same place where the contact folder is. So we don't need to tell it to look up. And that would only work for this index, which is your home page for your website. That, ladies and gentlemen, is relative URLs.